the story that you were about to say about
My marketing?
your marketing, the very first marketing that you did at Lee's.
I had a girlfriend at the time, and we didn't have any money. We literally just bought the store. My dad said, I need a tax break. And I said, if I'm going to run it, it's not going to be a tax break. And he laughed, and I laughed. And okay. So we didn't have any money for marketing, so she went down to, I guess, Hanshaw's at the time. It was a 5 and dime. And buys a poster board. And buys those black, sticky, plastic, rubberized letters.
There's like their stencil kind of.
But they're sticky. Then you peel them off, and she made a poster, and I don't even remember what it said. I guess I had our store hours and phone number and stuff like that, and it was by the front door on an easel.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first attempt at marketing.
And it was just like a sign, like a now open,
just an
or
information sign. Boom, that was it. And the second that I did was the monitor. Well, it wasn't the monitor, but it was. When I bought the store, of course, your name gets put out there. So I got an envelope in the mail one day, and it says, "You are the expert." And I read it, and it was a syndicated column.
Mm.
And what they would do is they would provide you with a weekly set of pieces of information. You know, like cardiovascular disease in 50-year-olds plus, according to Harvard Medical School. Or more people catch colds in the winter according to the Utah School of Medicine.
And this was a paid ad.
It was a paid. Well, you bought the subscription, okay, and then you would take that subscription and you would submit it to the monitor. And it was on the second page on the right-hand side column, and it had my name. It had the name of the pharmacy, my picture, and underneath it said, "Ask the expert." And it had a list of
different
different
ailments or problematic things.
But the expert was always backed up by experts. World-renowned medical experts, if you will. So no one could ever dispute it, because I would always say, look.
It's right here.
So, and at the bottom it had the tag, Lee's Pharmacy, 700 South Main, 686-3716. So that was the beginning of my marketing. So I was known around town, I guess in the first 5 or 6 years, as the expert.
Really?
Because everyone, back then there was no social media, TV was expensive, radio was So my easiest, least expensive, and
marketing.
Affordable piece of marketing was the newspaper column. And I think I spent $20 back in the day.
Really?
For the month.
Okay, what's back in the day? 1980?
We bought the store April Fool's Day in 1981. And
was there anything to that?
No, I told my dad, I said, Dad, either it's going to be really, really good or it's going to be really, really bad. It's April Fool's Day, but you know what? Let's see what happens. And the rest is history. So in the early 80s, and then I became known as the expert because of the ad.
So I get this a lot. Like, it's called Lee's Pharmacy, right? But Danny Vela. And so how did Danny Vela continue to own Lee's Pharmacy? Or where did Lee's Pharmacy come from?
Okay. We bought the store from a gentleman named Lee Acevedo. And he was a good friend of my dad's. They both went to UT together, both undergrad and pharmacy school. And literally the stores were 60 feet apart.
Oh, wow.
So he'd go every morning, he'd go have coffee with my dad. And one day he comes in and he says, I'm selling the store. There's a chain that wants to buy it. But the lease agreement is like 4 inches thick. I don't want to deal with that. What do you think? And I'd been out of school for about 2 years,
Pharmacy school.
pharmacy school, and working for a gentleman in Edinburgh. And my dad says, hey, Lee wants to sell the store. Okay, I'll go talk to him. He said, this, and this. I want so much, da-da-da-da. If you can't get the money, we'll finance it. Okay. Told
Like, finance it himself?
owner finance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had a partner. So I went and told my dad. My dad goes, yeah, you know what, go ahead, give it a shot. You know, I need a tax write-off. And the name of the pharmacy was Lee's Rexall Drugs. And back then, his customer base was very, very good. It was a good cross section of old McAllen, high profile names. And I said, why would we change it? And if we changed it, because my dad's store was professional pharmacy.
Oh, okay.
If we changed it, what do we change it to? Back in the 80s, for some reason, you know, Danny's Drugs didn't sound good.
Right. Danny's Drugs.
Didn't sound good today.
Yeah, it still kind of has a little.
So, but because of the corporate structure and stuff, we needed to change it from Lee's Rexall because Rexall, the Rexall company wouldn't give us a franchise anymore because they were doing away with the franchises.
Okay, so Rexall was kind of a franchising name, branding kind of thing.
Yeah. What they did back then was it wasn't a franchise, but you could buy from the Rexall company. Okay. So there was Lee's Rexall, there was, you know, Any City USA Rexall, there was Joe Blow Rexall, but they were all Rexall stores because they bought from Rexall. Rexall started out as a vitamin company in Chicago way back in the 40s and 50s. But they weren't going to continue the business, so we needed to change the name. And my dad always wanted to do medical equipment. So he says, okay, change the name, put medical equipment in there. I said, okay, how about Lee's Pharmacy and Medical Equipment? And it stuck, and we're still Lee's Pharmacy and Medical Equipment.
Although you still go by Lee's Pharmacy.
We go by Lee's Pharmacy.
That's kind of what everybody knows it as.
Yeah.
That's sort of but the DBA is Lee's Pharmacy.
Well,
or LLC or whatever it is.
That was in 81. I think in the late 80s we incorporated because that tax break wasn't a tax break anymore, so we needed to incorporate. So we incorporated in the mid or late 80s. And it was Vela Corp doing business as Lee's Pharmacy.
Oh,
and it was also including my father's pharmacy, which was professional pharmacy at the time. And then later we bought another pharmacy, Garcia Pharmacy on 17th Street. So there was and then we had several others. And long story short, the corporation still stands, but today it's only DBA Lee's Pharmacy.
So how did you know that you wanted to be in pharmacy? Like, I would imagine that your dad growing up was like a major influence for you, and because you said he was a pharmacist,
Yeah.
too, right? So you followed in your father's footsteps. What was that like?
Both my brothers are pharmacists, and my dad was a pharmacist. My parents, my mother more so, wanted me to go to medical school. I figured, okay, I can't pay for medical school, neither can they, so let me become a pharmacist and pay my way through medical school. So that was the plan. I got out of pharmacy school, and I said, you know what? I don't want to go to medical school.
Medical school, doctorate, doctor,
Become a medical doctor,
general
and I really did not want to become a doctor. And I said, you know what? I'm more of a retail guy. I'm more of a press to flesh. I'm more of how can I help you. So I said, you know what? I'm going to become a pharmacist. service industry. I grew up in my dad's store as a little kid. I saw how he helped people, and that's what I want to do.
Did he take you in like at an early age, like, hey, look at what I do, or
No.
was it like one of those like child labor kind of things where he's
No.
like, you got to help?
Not even that.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It was like my mom would say, take your son to the store because I can't stand him anymore. Get him
out of this
hair.
house.
Get him out of my hair. I can't stand him anymore. Get him out of my hair. And so my dad would take me from, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, as long as I can remember. I was in the store and doing something, rearranging the vials or medicine or cleaning shelves or sweeping or whatever it was. That's what I did. And
At
that
an
was my
early
first
age.
experience. Oh yeah, I think before I even went to school, that's as long as I can remember.
So when you went to college, you just like you said, this is what I'm gonna do. Did you have other kind of aspirations prior to, or did you just say, I'm doing this?
No, I think that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a pharmacist. The chemistries, the maths, the biologies, all of that was easy for me. It was just, my buddies were like, "Hey, aren't you studying?" I said, "I know it." It was easy. Didn't have any problem with it. I played a lot, but I wanted to be a pharmacist. But it wasn't so much being a pharmacist. It was I wanted to be with people, and I wanted to. And I've always told my employees this, and that was the mindset I had back then, was that anyone who walks into a pharmacy has a problem. And we are there, I am there, to solve that person's problem. And you look at it like that, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
I mean, you could be a retail merchant selling lamps or whatever. You're not solving their problem. But if somebody walks into your pharmacy, they didn't walk into their pharmacy because they wanted to. They walked in because they needed to.
Right.
And that was my goal, was to solve people's problems.
And help people in need, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Right. Especially when somebody's going to you for health issues, because
Yeah.
health issues are one of those things that it's a need. It's not a want.
Yeah.
It's like a must have.
It's a gotta have. Like I said, no one goes to the doctor or to the pharmacy because they want to.
Right.
It's because
They
have
need to.
They have to.
Right. Yeah. So you started Lee's Pharmacy, or you took over Lee's Pharmacy, I should say, right? So did that mean that you were in direct competition with your dad?
No, because my dad and Lee had been neighbors on the same block doing the same thing for, 20, 30 years before that.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't, and even today, I don't see my colleagues as competitors. I see them as doing the same thing I'm doing. I communicate frequently with my colleagues. We band together when we have an issue. We celebrate each other's victories. So it's not competition. And like I've always said, there's enough pharmacy business for everybody.
Yeah.
So
And how much has the pharmacy business changed?
no.
That's a loaded question, right?
Wow.
Over the last, since April 1st, 1981,
No.
how many times have you had to adapt to that?
Every day. Every day. Every day we adapt, we change. But it got to the point where we weren't changing because we wanted to. We were changing because we had to. I remember selling a prescription for Keflex back in the 80s.
What was Geflex?
It's an antibiotic. And
Oh.
it's still, today, it's still
Relevant.
for Keflex. And to go to the register and charge somebody $20 for a prescription of Keflex, it broke your heart because that was so much money. It was like,
Sorry.
and you almost had to apologize because you had to sell it for $20. Today, unfortunately, it's into the hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars.
For the same.
Well, maybe not Keflex, but other antibiotics have gotten just crazy. And when I started, everything was cash. And everything was charge accounts. I talked early on about my clientele back in the day.
Yep.
And it was all high-end, delivery service, charge
Well-to-dos.
accounts, send me the bill at the end of the month.
Right.
And we kept their charge accounts on note cards. And a 4x6 note card.
Kind of like what you see in like the old school libraries.
Yeah, just like that. And if you got 2 or 3 or 4 note cards, you'd staple them together and just write the date. There was no tickets, no signatures, no nothing. I delivered to Jerry, sent him a handwritten bill at the end of the month. Today, everything's scanned, barcoded. We don't have as many charge accounts as we used to because, people have debit cards, people have insurance,
Right.
whatever. So-
Automatic.
But it's changed every day. Back then, we didn't have what are today known as PBMs.
What's PBM?
It stands for Pharmacy Benefits Managers. But that's really not what they do. They pay you a certain amount for a prescription, and then they charge their client more for that prescription. So it's a middleman.
Right. Service fee.
They've inserted themselves into the electronic age and become billionaires.
In
so-
the process.
Yeah. How else has it changed? The number of drugs that are out there is just phenomenal. Into the in your inventories, into the tens of thousands of different products you have to have on the inventory. So it's changed. It's changed a lot. It's all electronic now. Everything. No more handwritten prescription. Well, there are a few, but most of them now are sent electronically from an iPhone or an iPad or a computer or.
That's crazy, right? Like the way that businesses change and the way that you conduct business is like completely different.
It's taken a lot of the person out, and that's unfortunate. We still get calls. We still talk to doctors. We still talk to nurses. But it's taken a lot of the person out of the transaction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and look, there's been everybody around town. I'm not trying to blow smoke, but everybody around town knows who Danny Vela is. You've been serving the community for so long, and that idea of care, is that what kind of like led you to being on the school board? Because you've been on the school board for years, and I mean, so well respected in the community, but what kind of got you into all of that?
People have asked me that. I think it's in my DNA because as long as I can remember my grandparents, my parents, my brothers and sisters, and if you go up and down the valley, our family has been in some kind of service to the community.
That's right, because Filimon is your...
We have congressmen, we have school board members, we have city council members, we have mayors, we have state reps, we have even non-elected positions, people in our family, and I'm talking back probably over 100 years. My grandfather's my grandfather's brother was the mayor of Hidalgo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Eduardo Vela, fine man.
Wow.
Fine man. My grandfather's brother. And he and my grandfather even had a 20 mule team that helped build the original set of levees between McAllen and Hidalgo
No way.
for the floodways that went. So families has been involved in community service in one way or another forever. Church, community, civic, nonprofit, profit, whatever it is, we've always been.
Yeah, because you're super involved in your church. I know that too. But like, okay, so what do you think that is? You think that that's like hereditary or just like learned, passed down?
Well, I said mentioned DNA. I think the propensity to do that is here.
The propensity.
I think the propensity to do it is here, but the example that we grew up with is the driving factor that helps us do that. And it was a joke, not really a joke, but it was a laugh line, if you will. Our family would have a family reunion, and our family, the Velas, I mean, it's gigantic. And we'd have a family reunion over here at Laguna Seca Ranch, because that was an old family ranch. And there's 2,000 people there.
Whoa. Are you serious?
And they're saying that we would get together on presidential election years to elect the next president. It's a laugh line, but
Right.
but I mean, it goes back that far.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
So
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there's an expectation that's set when you've got, especially the way it sounds is like you've got so many family members contributing to service and contributing to the community and contributing to the greater good of the communities that they serve. Like, do you feel like do you feel obligated? Do you feel, what's that kind of, what kind of runs through your mind with that kind of stuff? Do you feel it's like civic duty?
we don't see it as an obligation. Because obligation would define it as something we had to do. I see it more as a gift,
Privilege?
privilege. Let me serve you. How can I serve you? In fact, when people come in the store, what do you say? You say, how can I help you? And if you take, how can I help you outside of the store, how can I help you?
Right.
Can I open a door for you? Can I help you cross the street? Can I help you raise money for the church, Father? Can I help you at the school board? Can I help you help your kid? Whatever it is, how can I help you? So it's not an obligation. If it were an obligation, we probably wouldn't do it.
Right.
But I think it's a gift.
That.
I'm able to. I'm willing to. I want to. I'm encouraged to. All of the twos to help are there, and it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, a real quick story. When my dad passed away, I gave a eulogy, and one of the things I said in the eulogy was, that's how my dad was, and one of the things I said in my eulogy was, it's okay, if you can't pay me, I'll hold the ticket. You pay me later. And I said something like, people would pay him with a box of fruit, or a box of vegetables, or a cabrito, or eggs, or whatever they had to give for what my dad had done for them, they would give. And there was a man sitting there from Hidalgo, and after the end of the service, he came up to me, and he's crying and crying and crying, and he goes, "You captured your dad perfectly." And he gave back
Right.
to the people that had helped him. So
Right. And to sort of carry on that legacy,
yeah,
that's a pretty special thing.
I got a call yesterday from a gentleman, and I won't say his name. He's an older gentleman, owns a very famous barbecue place in North McAllen, and he called me up, and because he walks at the McAllen High School track
Oh, okay. Wait,
every morning.
by the tennis
on 23rd
courts?
Street. Yeah,
Okay.
by the tennis courts.
Yeah.
And he walks every morning at 5 o'clock. He's there. And I've always told him, I said, he's called me before, and I said, if you ever need anything, you call me, I'll take care of it. So yesterday I had a message on my phone, my cell phone. And he goes, Mr. Vela, da-da-da-da-da. I went this morning to walk at the track, and the gates were locked.
McAllen track.
McAllen track. Well, the McAllen track, it's a shared part between City of McAllen and high school and the school district. So it's
Not a lot of people know that.
no, they don't. I wish they did, because sometimes it's a city's fault.
Right. That's
Most
a
of
city
the
issue.
time it's a city's fault, not
city
a school
issue.
district.
Not a school district issue.
Not a school district issue. So I called him back and I said, Mr. I'll call you right back. I called him back and I gave him the information he needed, and he goes, Mr. Vela, thank you for taking care of that for me. Have you ever thought about running for anything besides school board?
I'm telling you, man. I am telling you.
And I said, you know what? You call me whether I'm on a board or a commission or whatever it is, you call me and I'll help you take care of it. And he laughed. He goes, let's have lunch together. I said, okay, we will.
I mean, have you thought about, because look, you've been on the school board for how many years?
I just finished my 14th year with a little less than 2 years to go. That's
Congratulations.
It. That's it.
And then that's
Make it official. I'm not running for re-election.
You're hanging up the jersey. The jersey's going up, and the name and the
Time to move on.
everything.
Time to move on.
Did you ever consider doing something,
No.
continuing to serve the community more than what you're currently doing?
Well, it depends on how you define more than what I'm doing. Because there are a lot of people in McAllen who serve the community that no one ever knows. They don't know what they do, they don't know who they are, and they don't know how they serve. Nonprofits, non-elected boards, non-elected commissions. So will I always serve? Yes. In what capacity? To be determined. And my children and I always talk about this. Timing is everything. Okay? But you can make your timing sometimes too. So we've had some opportunities that because for whatever reason I kept my word.
Right.
The time wasn't right. But you know what? Tomorrow's another day. Next year, timing is everything.
Everything.
Would I serve? Jerry, I'll always serve. But in what capacity?
That's to be
determined.
Determined.
Yeah.
Do your children, have any of your children, you follow your dad's footsteps and any of your children kind of followed in that same sort of footsteps? What are they, what are they doing?
Well, I've got 4. They're probably at about the age where, well, I think by the time I was their age, I had probably already started. But again, timing is everything. Times are a lot different today than when I was their age.
Oh, man.
A lot different.
Oh, yeah.
Do they have aspirations? They all help.
Yeah.
They all have their generosity. And my wife, the same way. They have that gift of giving. I think they'd all take their shirts off their back and give it to you. In February, when we had that freeze, my oldest son was at the ranch, and he had driven up to the ranch house because he needed to pick up his father-in-law's ranch is next door, so he'd come back to our place. It was a Sunday night, and he calls me up and he says, "Dad," and I said, "What's up?" And he says, "I'm at the house, and this young man just came out of the back of the house." I said, "Son, it was like 14, 15 degrees that night.
Whoa.
Freezing, raining." And I said, "And?" He goes, "Dad, he looks bad." I said, "Well, what is he?" And he goes, "Dad, he's an immigrant."
Whoa! So he had been just kind of.
He said, Dad, he's been in the brush for 4 or 5 days. His lips are swollen, his face is swollen, his hands, he's soaking wet. I said, son, in my closet, there's clothes, there's pants, there's shirts, there's jackets, there's shoes, there's boots. Get him out of that wet clothes, put him into some dry clothes, and call me back. So about 45 minutes later, he calls me and he says, Dad, I started a big fire. He's beginning to thaw out.
Wow.
He's eating. I gave him food. I gave him drink. I gave him this. And
wow.
And now it got to the point where the young man was, well, almost. It was. I think if he had spent the night, he would have died. So after about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, he calls me back and he says, Dad, he called somebody that came to pick him up. And I said, how do you feel? And he says, I think God put me here for a reason.
That's awesome.
And you know, for a father of twin boys and, 30-something or early 30s, and for him to tell you that,
Yeah.
pat myself on the back, I did something right.
That's right. That's right.
So,
there's got to be, for your grandfather to do it, your dad to do it, you to do it, and then now your sons to be able to carry on that regardless of whether or not they go into the same industry, they still have that heart, they still have that willingness, and that, not willingness, it's not even willingness, it's like the innate I guess thought or feeling of caring beyond what
I don't even think it's a thought. I think it's a reaction.
Yeah.
For them to do what they do.
Yeah.
And I think my youngest is probably the one that's most, they don't think about it. They're there because they need the help. And it's a good thing. I have no problem with it. They're not selfish. They're generous. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I'm sure that your wife also, say you have such a lovely wife. Alejandra is just like amazing. I'm sure she had something to do with it.
Well, 100%. I had nothing to do with it.
I'm sure she has a little bit of.
She just polished what I had put in there. She's 100% behind all of that. No question about it. Yeah, I give her a lot of credit for raising 4 great kids and their spouses. I mean, they got great spouses, beautiful spouses.
How did you all meet?
Oh, you talk about arranged marriage.
Oh, is that the way it went down?
Kind of. It's really her grandfather and my grandfather were born in the late 1800s. Okay. And her father was a general in the Mexican army.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pancho Villa times?
Yeah, all of those times. A very well-respected general in the northern division of Mexican army.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather, South Texas, and his family. What's really funny is they knew each other because actually the families knew each other back from the 1800s. By the 1900s, they were all growing up together. There's a picture of my grandfather and her grandfather playing polo.
What?
Playing polo. Her grandfather and my grandfather. Her grandfather was on the Mexican polo team, on the Reynosa polo team, and my grandfather was on the Hidalgo polo team.
You gotta be shitting me.
No, I'm not. And there's a picture of the 4 and the 4 on their horses with their mallets and their boots and their hats and their helmets and everything in the early 1900s. So there's a lot of family connections.
How did you all even like?
Well, we didn't
Did
know
you
each
have
other.
the same photos she had, or how did you?
Well, we have found them
Oh.
between her family and my family. My brother's a great genealogist, and he's done a lot of research. And there's pictures of all of our ancestors together, but we didn't know each other. We really didn't. She knew my parents. She knew my brothers. She didn't know me. I didn't know her. And one day, my mother, the consummate matchmaker,
She was like, "Hey,
you need to meet this girl," and I did, and here we
wait,
are.
how did she know her?"
My wife's stepmother and my mother were together at a party, and hey, and the rest
And
is
then
history.
they were like, "Oh, nice,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Wow." And this was after college?
Oh yeah, I didn't get married till I was 33.
Really?
Yeah,
So, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
and she was much younger.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
she's-
okay.
she's
Yes.
much
That,
younger,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. But you already kind of look young, so Alejandro looks young too.
She's younger, but a lot of my friends got married out of high school.
Was that kind of the norm, like, or is it, or it's
I
just
don't know
common?
if it was the norm.
It was-
They either got married out of high school or right out of college, and they were married. So by 22, 23, most of them were married. And I remember being at birthday parties for my friends' kids, and I'd take a different girlfriend at every birthday party, you know? Every
There's
baptism,
Danny.
Every baptism, a new girlfriend. I was just, but I had said to myself, I wanted to be stable economically. I wanted to be stable professionally, and I wanted to be stable community-wise. And I think I was. I had my own house, a couple of cars, a couple of dogs.
Did that come really early on for you, or was that sort of instilled in you?
Oh, no. I was 5 years old. We went to a Houston Astros game. The Astrodome had just opened. And it was a big deal. I mean, it was the Astrodome. I mean,
Yeah.
the seventh wonder of the world, right?
Right,
Or the
yeah.
eighth wonder of the world,
It
whatever.
was like kind of at that time. That was kind of like the only sort of dome-ish.
It was the first in the 60s. It was in the 60s. And I remember, I'll never forget, and I was, I don't know, 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that. And I said, I need to go to the bathroom. So I ran to the bathroom, and I'm coming back from the bathroom, and this guy stops me, and he goes, hey, you want to sell popcorn? I said, yeah.
Really?
I said,
And you were at a game?
and I'm at a baseball game. And he goes, hey, you want to sell popcorn? Because they needed people to sell popcorn, right? I go, okay. I didn't know any better. So, I mean, I don't think I was as high as this table. And I sell popcorn. I said, yeah, let me go tell my parents. Okay. Dad, I'm going to go sell popcorn. He goes, sit your ass down. I didn't buy you a ticket for this baseball game for you to go sell
Sell
popcorn.
popcorn
I can
for
make
the
some money,
Astros.
Dad. I can make some money. Sit your ass down. Okay. So that was, I've always,
Just kind of had that.
another one that a lot of people were really surprised at was when I was dating Alejandra. She lived in Reynosa. And I'd go back every day.
Every
Every
day?
day. Every day. 7 days a week, I'd go to Reynosa, whether it was the morning or the evening, every day. But you went to Reynosa, I'm sure, when you were a kid.
Teenage years, but that's another podcast.
And probably the thing that every kid remembers about going to Reynosa was the hot dogs. Right?
Yep.
So I would buy a hot dog on the way to her house, and on the way back from the house, I'd stop and buy another hot dog, or two or three, whatever. They were 20 cents. Now you buy a Coke, you could buy a couple or three hot dogs and a Coke for less
For
than
nothing.
a buck.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting there eating my hot dog and thinking, how many hot dogs are they selling a night? How much are they selling them for? How much are they making? And every time I'd go back and forth,
You start Doing the math.
So one night I asked, how much you pay for the cart? And he told me, and where do you buy your weenies? You know. So I just start gathering the information.
Mm-hmm.
So when Alejandro and I were getting a little bit more serious, I said, I want to start a business in Mexico. Okay.
Selling hot
I
dogs.
told her what I wanted to do was I wanted to go in the hot dog business. And she thought I was nuts. I probably was, but she said,
But you
"You're
did the
nuts."
math behind it.
Oh, no, math was there.
So entrepreneurial
From
from the Houston Astros Astrodome game.
So she had a real good friend and her husband, because they were already married. And I proposed it to them, and they were like, and I showed them the numbers, and they're like, it works. I said, but I can't do it because I'm an American.
Right.
I'll put up the money. You help me with the manpower and the logistics. Boom.
Are you serious?
We went to Guadalajara. We bought 10 hot dog carts.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. I put up the money. We went to Guadalajara. We brought back 10 hot dog carts. We started selling hot dogs in Reynosa on the street.
What was the business called?
Oh, well, we took the first initial of our names and put it together. That was the name of because we couldn't come up with a name. It was MADA, M-A-D-A.
Wow. Mata hot dogs.
MADA hot dogs. And she and I took a month in Europe for a honeymoon. Paid for by helicopter.
By Mata hot dogs?
By the hot dogs. So what I did was I had I just applied for American Express card because I got something in the mail, right?
Yeah.
So I applied for American Express card. So I took all the money I was making from the hot dogs, and I would just send American Express a check every month. So I had this huge credit on my American Express card. So when it came time to get married and go on a honeymoon,
Boom.
my American Express card had this huge balance on it.
Paid for it.
No worries.
That's awesome, man. And so how long did the hot dog
We got
business
married,
stand?
and probably 5 or 6 years after we were married, we still had the hot dogs. And then,
No way.
and we both lived over here, and it was like they were doing all the work. And I said, you know what?
Give it to him.
He paid me a little bit for the hot dog carts, and it's all yours.
You've had a lot of businesses like that, right? I mean, well, not a
Yeah.
lot, but
Yeah.
you've had some businesses where you've gone into multiple ventures. You've done, because look, you're a very successful guy. You're a very credible guy. You're a very stand-up guy in the community. But I don't know. I think a lot of people they take a look at somebody's success like you and they say, "Oh, you're so lucky," right? Like sometimes those things don't always kind of pan out, right? Like where there are other kind of instances. How many ventures have you had where you've
You know,
failure to success? What's the ratio?
well, how about success to failure? Probably 10 to 1.
Okay.
Probably 10 to 1. Maybe 8 to 2, something like that.
Okay.
But not everything's been a success.
Right. Can't hit a home run
Not every time.
single time you go up to bat.
No. I went into a venture in 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Then the market crashed.
I could already tell that it wasn't going to be a good story because of the way that
Well,
you rubbed your forehead.
I can't go into much detail, but we're
Right.
still waiting for the outcome of that one.
Oh, it's still there. Okay.
Still waiting for the outcome on that one. But I think we're going to come out all right on that one. But it was, tell you what, it was like, oh my God. It was tense situations, you know, but I think we're going to come out okay. It's still to be, hopefully the next year or so we'll find out.
Yeah.
But I've had good ones and I've had bad ones. I've had break-even ones. There's no luck. There's no luck.
You don't believe in luck?
No luck. You make your luck. If people want to call it luck, that's fine. Call it luck. But success is determined by the amount of determination, by the amount of hard work, and about the number of decisions you make to do what's right. Okay,
And the perseverance to continue.
you have to. My dad used to say, you know what, son, you could screw somebody over a couple or 3 times, a couple or 4 times, but you're not going to do it forever.
Mm-hmm.
So you treat them right, and as long as you treat them right, you can do that forever.
Right.
And I think that was the mantra I adapted. And
Well, I think it's always just been sort of, you've always gone into everything that you've done, at least, the things that I've seen, with always the best intentions. And I think that's always the best approach is just do it with the best intentions. Don't really think about the financial impact that's going to come, because it's not about that. It's about something a little bit more intrinsic, right?
it's not always about the money.
Yeah.
It's always about the trip. It's always about the journey. It's always about the path. It's always about how you got to that point. A perfect example. A few years ago, we were fortunate enough to take my daughter. Was it 4 years ago? 4 years ago. My wife and I were fortunate enough to take my daughter on a hunting trip to Africa. And she was after a leopard. And we were going to do everything we could possibly do
To get the leopard.
to get a leopard. And she had several opportunities, but we had set a standard. This is what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't meet that standard, that's not what she's going to take.
Right.
So that was our goal, was the standard. And we had a videographer, and we were there for 10 days after a leopard. And throughout the 10 days, we got to know each other and the guide and everybody much, much better, and the trackers and the people that helped us and all of that.
Was that hunting for 10 days? You
Yeah.
hunted for 10 days
Yeah.
straight.
Straight.
Wow.
Yeah. And near the end, he was doing a nightly. We'd come back from all-day hunting, and we'd come back to the camp, and he started talking to us, and I said, well, it's getting tough. We might not get your leopard and this and that. I said, it's not about the leopard.
Hmm.
It's about the hunt. It's about the hunt. How did you hunt it?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do to hunt? What did you do to prepare? It's all about the hunt.
The hunt.
And we have filmed a video, and we called it "It's All About the Hunt." And I think it's about the journey. It's about
How do you go through it?
what's my legacy at the school board.
Right.
It's about my legacy. What did I do for the school district?
Right.
What did I do in my children's lives?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing in my grandchildren's lives? What have I done in my friends' relationships?
Right.
It's that. It's not that I say Jerry's my friend.
Right.
It's how did Jerry become my friend?
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's how I see things. How did we build this building?
Right. Yeah.
It's not that the building's here. It's how did we build it?
Right. And there's success in that, because you understand what it took to build all of the brick and mortar behind this. The sacrifice, all of the things, right? Like, I mean, because there's losses, right? There's got to be. Nobody has a undefeated winning. Maybe Tom Brady. No, not even Tom Brady.
Not even Tom Brady.
Not even Tom Brady. The GOAT of NFL. I mean, that guy loses games. So how do you persevere through that? Like, what do you?
It's. I don't want to say it builds character, because that's so cliche, but it makes you a wiser person. My kids always ask me, they've asked me, what's wisdom? I said, well, wisdom is only the combination of it. It's only the compilation of experiences that you develop throughout your life, both good and bad, to help you make the right decisions as you get older, only because you are wiser because of the earlier experiences. So that's my definition of it, of wisdom. What is it? I don't know.
I think it's there's a saying, and I'm probably completely butchering it, but it is something like smooth waters don't make for strong sailors. And I think the harder you go through things, the harder the fights are, the better the fighter, at the end of everything. And I think there's a lot of people that just don't realize that the amount of success that you've accomplished within your life, people don't see all of the, the hard knocks and the, all of the knockdowns and the things like that, right?
Two things. I when I was real young, I'm saying my early 20s, if not 19, 20, 21, something like that, I read a book, and it was How to Achieve Financial Success. Yeah, okay. There are a dime a dozen on the bookstore shelves, but it's what you do with what you read. That's. And one of the phrases was, "A successful man is not the one who makes $1 million. A successful man is a man who makes $1 million, loses it, and makes it again. That's a successful man." So, have I lost $1 million? Yeah, probably.
More or less.
Have I made $1 million? Maybe.
More or less.
More or less. So, but it's, how do you define success?
Define success.
You don't define success.
Well, but you have to define success in some way, right? And it can't be 100% financially. What do you define success as?
My kids, my friends, the time I enjoy with my family, the time I enjoy with my wife. That to me, that's success. It's not how much money I have.
Mm-hmm.
It's the journey. It's the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was reading that book, and I was working for this gentleman. I was working in a bar. I came home in the summer one year from UT, and I was working in a bar.
Here or
Here
at
in
UT?
McAllen, here in
Okay,
McAllen.
okay.
And it was a bar. And I said, "I'm looking for a job for the summer." And he goes, "What can you do?" I said, "Anything you want." "I need a bar back." I said, "What's a bar back do?" "Well, they pour ice and they wash glasses. Pick up glasses." "I'll do it." I think it was $3 an hour or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Tips or whatever. So I worked with him for about 2 months, and he was a very astute businessman. No education, but very astute business person,
Mm-hmm.
and did very well. And he took a liking to me. I took a liking to him. He became one of my mentors. In fact, to this day, I can still call him. But he said something to me one day, and he said, I don't remember what it was. We had a ball buster of a night,
Mm-hmm.
and we had worked, and the place was packed, and there was a line outside the door, and it was just one of those crazy, crazy nights. And at the end of the night, we'd closed up. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. We finished cleaning up, and we were sitting down having a soda or whatever. And I said, "Man, that was a tough night." And he looked at me, and he said, "Don't ever say that." I said, "What do you mean?" "Don't ever say that." And if I can say it or not, I don't know if I use the word shit or not, but I'm going to say it anyway.
I mean, you could say it. It's on the internet. You could say whatever you
Okay.
want.
So he looks at me and he goes, "Son, if you want it soft, shit in your hand."
I love that.
And who wants to shit in their hand?
Nobody. I mean, only the exceptionally
Nobody.
weird, but
No, think about the visual. Nobody wants.
I
Okay.
did, and it's
So I looked
disturbing.
at him and I goes, "I don't want to shit in my hand." And he goes, "That's right." And I've shared that with people, and they look at me like I'm crazy. But if I want it soft, I'd shit in my hand. I don't want to shit in my hand.
Right.
I want it soft.
Right. Well. I mean, and that kind of goes to like understanding that life is hard, right? You got to kind of go in. You got to kind of go into life like, hey, it's gonna be hard. If you kind of go in thinking it's gonna be easy, are you in for a letdown? Are you in for shitting in your hand?
Probably. But if you don't look at it as hard or easy, if you look at it as a goal-oriented life, and what's your goal? My goal is to be complete, successful. What's success? Family, enjoyment, relax, friends, good times,
Right.
see the world, see your children.
Whatever that
Take
is.
the journey, make the hunt. That's to me, that's success.
Is there anything that you want to do that you haven't done?
Yeah,
Hit me.
Antarctica.
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 What do you want to do?
Oh,
What
I'd
could you
love-
do?
I would love to go to the South Pole. Take the trek. Take the trek to South Pole. I've hunted in the Arctic Circle. I've hunted in Africa. I've traveled most of the world, and
Have you been to all continents?
no, I have not been to all the continents.
Okay. Africa for sure.
Africa for sure.
Europe for
South
sure.
America, North America, Europe, Asia.
Australia?
I've not been to Australia.
Okay.
And that's my son and I, my older son and I were hunting moose in the Arctic Circle one year in Alaska. And first night we got there and we set up our little 2-man tent, and we set it up on the rim of a valley because we were going to hunt that valley for moose, biggest moose in the world in the Yukon.
How cold was it?
Oh, well, that's what I'm getting to. And when we got there, it was about 20 degrees, and the wind blows 70 miles an hour all the time. So we fixed our little burner, fixed dinner, whatever. We said, it's time to go to sleep. And it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I am literally shaking. I'm so cold. Shaking. It's freezing cold. And I reach over and I wake up my son. He goes, Dad, what's wrong? He goes, son, I'm freezing. He goes, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, lay on top of me. So he laid on top of me, and, I began to thaw out or whatever. Oh, fine, okay, fine. So we pulled out our survival blankets or whatever.
It was just you and him?
Well, the guides there was 2 guides in it.
And
'cause
another.
there was a horse wrangler and a guide, and they were in another tent down the way. And I said, son, just lay on top of me. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done, is sleep
Wow.
up there in that cold, cold, cold. But, and the next morning you get up and
Get up and you do your thing.
and get going, and you go again. So, well, earlier I said I wanted to go to Antarctica, and I do. I think it would be so, not only because I want to go, but because my kids want to go. They've seen what I've done, and they've experienced a lot of it because they've been with me to Africa, they've been with me to Alaska, they've been with me. My son spent time in Africa as a assistant professional hunter, so he got to be
Up close and personal with.
Yeah. And I should tell you a story about. I told you a story about my first son. I should tell you a story about my other son real quick. He was a professional hunter in Africa.
Andre.
Number
Daniel.
two.
Okay.
The architect.
Okay.
And he's in Africa, and he said, Dad, you got to come over here. Before I go home, you got to come over here. So I did, and I got there, and they picked us up at the airport. We went back to the village, if you will, and all these local natives, tribes, and whatever you want to call them, come out, and they thought my son was the king. And I look around and I'm like, son, they're all wearing A&M shirts. They're all wearing A&M caps. I'm like, what are you doing?
They're like, gig 'em.
And I'm going, no, that's wrong. Anyway, we joked about that.
Beat the hell out of you. you.
And he says to me, Dad, I said, these guys really like you. And he goes, Dad, they like me because I treat them like people. And this is a 20-year-old kid telling me that these people from these Africans, and they're calling him Shadi. I said, what does Shadi mean? Shadi means revered one or hierarch or whatever.
Wow.
And he was like, so why are you calling me Shadi? Because they hold me in
High regard.
high regard. And he said, Dad, they're people. And they just want to be treated like people. And I've treated them the whole time I've been here. I've treated them like people. That was another one of those
Yeah.
I'm successful moments.
Got it.
You know,
Yeah.
I did.
You instilled something.
Yeah, that was
That's
that,
long
that
lasting.
Was, that was a successful moment for me. Money and all of that. Nah,
Right.
that was a successful moment. When my son said to the other immigrant that was found on the ranch freezing and he goes, Dad, God put me here for a reason. That was a successful moment. My daughters, Dad, we have to help the immigrants, Dad. That's a successful moment. So how do you measure success? That's how I measure it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what I think I've done all my life. I've wanted to serve, wanted to help, wanted to treat people like they needed to be treated. You know,
Yeah.
they're people. They're like me and you, no different. It's just they have a
Right.
heart and soul.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of what you hope, I think, for if you have children, more than anything else, you want them to be happy and you want them to be genuinely good people. And if you can do that, you know, what else can you ask
I've
for?
always said, when you have to make a decision, do what's right. What's right, you'll know.
So, you mentioned earlier, life is not about luck. Life is
No.
is the luck that you create. So, in so many words, right? Like
Yeah.
you create the luck that you get. Right?
Karma, luck, no. My day tomorrow
Yeah.
is because I made it yesterday.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Whether you're dealing with problems, successes, things like that, it's because you planted a seed somewhere.
Recently, my youngest daughter and I went fishing. And she's my fisherman. Everybody else likes to hunt, but she loves to hunt too, but she's more a fisher person than a
She enjoys that more.
Oh yeah, I mean she could be on the water every day of the year. I mean she can fish probably better than I can. There's no question about that.
Where do y'all go?
Here in the Bay.
Okay.
But her goals are Hawaii, Panama, Costa Rica, Cabo San. And that's what she wants to do, which is fine. I'll take you.
Right.
She loves to fish, but she'll hunt too. So we had this gentleman take us out a few years back, and at the end of the evening, we cleaned up the fish. I got on my way home, and he sends me a text, and he goes, "Thank you for letting me be a part of your memories."
I like that.
And I said, that's because all we did was talk about how much fun we'd have and taking pictures and catching or releasing or whatever. And he says, "Thank you for letting me be a part of your memories." And that's success.
That's awesome.
That's what I want to do.
To be able to make that kind of impact.
Yeah.
So, if you could give a piece of advice on life, what would that to anybody? What's kind of like if you could, well, I don't even want to say choose one. Choose as many as you'd like, right? What are some of the kind of the things that you feel like are good pieces of advice that somebody should maybe live by or think about?
Always do what's right. No question. Always do what's right. If it's right by you, right by your family, right by the people. Always do what's right. And again, what's right? You'll know. Always do what's right. Don't ever screw anybody over.
Yeah.
Because people may not remember how many times you helped them,
Right.
but they'll always remember the one time you screw them over.
Right.
Right?
You're right. Yeah. It's it kind of goes back to that. People don't remember what you said. People will remember how you made them feel, and if they feel screwed over, that's the lasting impression that they have.
Don't let people take advantage of you. A lot of people try, and just draw your line in the sand and say you can't cross this line. And if you do, well, then it's not beneficial for either one of us.
So know your worth.
Treat your friends like you want them to treat you. My friendship, my partnership with Ford's more than 30 years.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
And that's a crazy thing because, Ford was on a podcast earlier and mentioned the friendship and the relationship that you guys have and how all of that came about. And I think it's so cool how these life instances completely change the trajectory of your entire life. They can.
For the better. No
the
question. I don't know how much he may have told you about our friendship, but if you compare, or if you go down the list of Ford and Danny, and I'm going to say it, he's Anglo, I'm Mexican. He's Republican, I'm a Democrat. He's conservative, I'm probably moderate. He's an Aggie, I'm a Longhorn.
You're a Longhorn.
He's a Longhorn.
It couldn't be.
He's Protestant, I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
If you look at it on paper, we have nothing in common. So people have asked us, they says, how did you guys
Come together.
Well, because it's not about that. It's about two guys with doing what's right.
Right. Common goals and
He jokingly said one night we were at an opening at one of our branches in San Juan. And we had the mariachis and we had the party and had all of that stuff. We were outside in the parking lot and somebody came up and asked us that very question. And we were both looking at each other like, well, we went down the whole list of things. You're this, I'm that, you're that, you're that, whatever. And then it was kind of quiet. And he goes, I know what the answer is. We both have beautiful wives.
that's it.
That's it, Ford. That's our answer. We're sticking to it.
Because for every successful man, there is a more successful woman behind that man.
So, and he treats me right and I treat him right. And I can't think of a more profound relationship, aside from my family and my wife, of course, but
Absolutely.
and my parents, but this, in terms of friends and stuff, I can't think of a more profound relationship I've had other than the relationship that Ford and I have enjoyed over
The course
more
of,
than 30 years.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I think that's why we're here today.
Right.
We've both been successful together, and
And that's life. Well, thanks, Danny. I appreciate you taking the time.
wow,
Man, I have so much respect beyond, everything that you've done, even for me personally. I haven't really had a lot of time to speak about that, but you are a stand-up guy with all the best values, and I have nothing but respect for you as a friend, as a professional. I mean, you're amazing, man.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to be able to take this time to be able to say that because there, there are not a lot of people like you, and I think it's awesome that you've been able to accomplish what you have and stay true to your values and all of those things. Totally stand-up guy. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
And we'll see you on the next one, man.
Absolutely. I'm free all the time.
The journey continues.
The journey continues.
Cheers, my friend.
To the hunt.
Yes, sir. To the hunt.